Chien Yubin is introduced as the guildmaster of the Warang Guild and also as one of the first people to awaken 10 years ago when dungeons first appeared. He fought against monsters in the Republic of Korea alongside Prime Minister Gu Song-ryong and became one of the heroes who helped save the country. Kaibong introduced himself to Chien Yubin and shook his hand while Yui documented their progress with her stream. She mentioned that they will be entering a 6-star dungeon named Moth Chamber. Although it was Yui's first time entering a 6-star dungeon, she expressed confidence in being with 2 strong players. Yui also informed her viewers that streaming inside the dungeon is not possible and ended the stream. Yui greeted Kaibong and asked if he already knew the details from Jiaeun. Kaibong confirmed that he did. Kaibong remembers Jiaeun's instruction that he must retrieve the Day Stone. Kaibong and the team prepared to enter the dungeon. Kang Wei was instructed to return to headquarters. Once inside, Yui set up another camera to document their progress. However, after exploring for a while, Yubin found it strange that they had not encountered any monsters yet. As typically there would be flying monsters at the beginning of the dungeon. Yui suggested that no monsters appearing could be a good thing, as they could focus on subjugating the boss monster. Yui showed no concern about the absence of monsters and pointed out that Kaibong has cleared an 8-star dungeon before. They continued exploring, but Kaibong noticed it was getting dark quickly, and Yui explained that it's due to the Moth Chamber's environment. Yubin suggested camping for the night, as it takes 3 days to clear the dungeon, and Yui created a campfire using her magic. In the headquarters, Vice Captain Han Jiwong was busy with paperwork when an alarm went off, signaling a dungeon break in Gyeonggi Province. One of the members informed him, but they were worried as Kaibong wasn't around to help. Jiwong then remembered something and ordered all team members to be summoned. He saw Kang Wei, who was crying in his room, as their hope. Jiwong went to Kang Wei's room. Feeling awkward due to their initial meeting, and pondered what to address him as he knew Kang Wei's strength. Kang Wei asked them their purpose, and they informed him about the dungeon break, but he declined to go as Kaibong wasn't there. Jiwong realized that they needed to act immediately before the situation of the dungeon break worsens. He thought of a strategy to persuade Kang Wei, saying that Kaibong would praise him if he clears the dungeon, which caught his attention. However, one of the members doubted the approach. Kang Wei thought of Kaibong complimenting him and got up immediately. Meanwhile, Kaibong's group continued their dungeon exploration, and he asked the system to locate the monsters. Eventually, the system reported that there were no monsters within 3 kilometers. Kaibong told the team that there were no monsters within 3 kilometers, and suggested they speed up. Yubin asked how he knew, and Kaibong gave a vague answer. Yubin assumed that, as an SS-class player who cleared an 8-star dungeon, Kaibong could sense monsters in a white area. Yubin agreed to quicken their pace and rushed forward followed by Yubin. Kaibong knew matching their speed would take too long, so he activated his skill and went ahead. Yubin asked Yui if it was flight magic, but she denied it as she didn't sense any use of magic, leaving Yubin confused. Kaibong requested the system to locate the Day Stone and headed straight towards the location it pointed out. However, when he arrived, he saw the stone, but 100 monsters suddenly appeared and attacked him as he tried to approach the stone. Yui and Yubin witnessed the explosion and hurriedly made their way to the site. Yui quickly came up with a plan to reach the top, using a spell to propel themselves upward after using the springy shield. When they arrived, they found Kaibong had already defeated the monsters. Yubin was amazed by Kaibong's incredible strength, especially as the battle was over in less than 5 minutes. As they approached the Day Stone, they discovered that there was a barrier around it. Kaibong instructed them to step back and destroyed it with a single punch. They then closed in on the Day Stone, and the system asked Kaibong if he wanted to absorb it, but he refused and instead chose to have it analyzed first. When Kaibong touched the stone, they were enveloped in a dark substance. Kang Wei and the team reached the dungeon break location where Yui saluted the Lieutenant Colonel and inquired about the situation. The Lieutenant Colonel stated that the dungeons have been acting strange lately, and they are unsure if it's related to the current situation. Zhu Yi added that he had read a report mentioning the inaccuracy of dungeon predictions in recent times. Zhu Yi expressed his concern about the situation. When asked about Kaibong's whereabouts, it was revealed that he was on another mission ordered by the Prime Minister. The Lieutenant Colonel saw this as bad news and expressed concerns about their lack of preparation without Kaibong. Zhu Yi suggested that there was still another way to handle the situation and, after some consideration, he was given permission to proceed with his plan. Zhu Yi was aware that there were only a few people in the country who could fill in for Kim Kaibong, and among them, he believed Kang Wei was the most capable, whom he personally knew. Meanwhile, Yui found herself alone and disoriented. wondering about her whereabouts and the possibility of being in a place similar to the moth chamber. However, she quickly brushed aside the thought and concluded that the day stone might have been the reason. Yui then called out for Kaibong and Yubin. Kaibong asked the system about their location, and it informed him that they were in a nameless, unranked dungeon. The system speculated that they were brought there because of the day stone, but it was not certain. The system suggested that if Kaibong absorbed the day stone, it might be able to determine why they were brought there, but Kaibong refused. Kaibong admits that he was not paying attention and got himself into a troublesome situation. He now thinks that his priority is to deal with the current situation and leave the place as soon as possible. Yui continued to move forward and documented everything that she saw. However, she became concerned about her current situation as she realized that she had used up too much mana when she cast the flame spell, assuming that there were no monsters nearby. As a result, she was now running low on mana. Yui realized that monsters were surrounding her. Similarly, Yubin found himself facing wolves instead of the expected moth monsters, causing him to realize that something bad was happening as he prepared to fight. Kaibong also encountered the same monsters and found them cute. Yui calmed herself down and took out her staff. Kaibong defeated the monsters easily but was concerned about Yui and Yubin after seeing the monsters were difficult to deal with. He then asked the system to find their location. And the system showed him a map and their location. Yubin had already started fighting the monsters but had difficulty fighting in the dark. However, as an experienced player, he managed to defeat all the monsters and was worried about Yui, who had used up a lot of mana. Yubin immediately moved forward to find her. Yui utilized her shield to defend herself against the monster's attacks. Due to her limited mana, she couldn't use any offensive magic and had to solely rely on her defense. If she had more mana, she could have used both offense and defense together. Yui considers whether she should risk using her attack magic, as Kaibong or Yubin might come to her rescue, but if her mana runs out before they arrive, she fears she will be killed instantly, with no chance to defend herself. After deciding to take a risk and fight the monsters, Yui put away her shield, and the monsters immediately attacked. She managed to take down several of them with her attack magic, but her mana was completely depleted. As she continued forward, hoping Kaibong and Yubin were safe, a monster attacked her from behind, but Yubin arrived just in time to save her. He then gave her a mana potion. Yui commented on how strange the cave was, noting that the mutated wolves that attacked them showed symptoms only seen in monsters infected by the moth, which was not normal for a moth chamber. Additionally, the cave itself did not match the usual layout for such chambers. Yubin and Yui heard something and quickly moved forward. Yubin mentioned that defeating the boss monster should allow them to return. Yui agreed and spotted a light in the distance. Upon seeing the light, Yui moved towards it but was stopped by Yubin, who gestured for her to be silent. They both cautiously peeked around the corner and were startled to see humanoid monsters. Yui and Yubin were encountering this type of humanoid monster for the first time. As one of the monsters sensed their presence, they were surprised to hear it speak. Yubin thought to himself that the language didn't sound like Korean, but he had heard it before. After one of the monsters searched their area and found nothing, another monster found the men attacked Yui and Yubin. They dodged the attack and prepared to fight. Yubin noticed the surgical markings on the monster and realized it was an artificial creation. He asked Yui how much mana she had left and she said she had enough for 4 or 5 more spells. Yubin charged forward to attack but couldn't cut through the monster. The monster prepared to attack Yubin but Yui's spell stopped it and he retreated. Yubin thanked Yui and expressed his concern about the other 2 monsters nearby who were engaged in conversation. He felt they needed a quick and efficient victory before those 2 could join the fight and complicate things. Yubin asked Yui to buff him with her remaining mana and she obliged by using 3 buffs on him. With the buffs, Yubin was able to land multiple attacks on the monster. However, he was surprised to see that the monster bled red blood unlike any other monster he had encountered before. This made him question if he was really fighting a monster. After defeating the first monster, the other 2 monsters joined the fight but Yubin managed to dodge their attacks. Yubin asked Yui about her remaining mana but she had used it all for the buff and could only use 1 or 2 spells. Yubin knew he had to defeat the 2 monsters quickly before the buff expired, so he charged forward to attack. Meanwhile, Kaibong was informed by the system that a battle was occurring and estimated he will reach them in 30 minutes if he took the shortest route through the cave-like dungeon. However, Kaibong thought it was too long and decided to smash through the walls to reach them faster. Yubin and Yui were struggling against the 2 monsters with Yui providing support spells. The system then informed Kaibong that he would arrive at their location in just 1 minute. Yubin injured one of the monsters and Yui stopped the other from attacking him from behind. The monsters then spoke and acknowledged that they were stronger than the humans they had faced before. However, they revealed that they were immortal beings called new humans after something was transplanted into them. They claimed that no human had ever survived after fighting them. The two monsters merged together and absorbed the dead monster, leaving Yubin and Yui in a difficult situation. Yubin asked Yui to use her remaining mana to buff him one more time, knowing they couldn't fight the merged monster in their current state. Yui agreed but could only divide her remaining mana into 3 buffs, each only a third as effective as normal. After Yubin received the buffs from Yui, he charged forward to fight the monster. The walls suddenly exploded and Kaibong appeared and immediately destroyed the monster. He was relieved to see Yui and Yubin were safe. They inspected the corpse and the system discovered a day stone's energy within the monster's body. However, the scan was unsuccessful as an unknown entity was holding the energy. Yubin tried to finish off the monster but Kaibong stopped him and asked the system to absorb the energy. After absorbing the energy, the monster disintegrated but it was not enough to unlock a new feature for the system. The system then asked for the day stone that he was holding. Kaibong thought that it was getting better at expressing itself. The system informed Kaibong that it sensed a dungeon boss and a fragment of filthy energy behind a wall. Yui wondered about the whereabouts of the boss while Kaibong smashed the walls and advanced forward. The two followed Kaibong inside and found the boss monster. They were taken aback to discover that the boss monster was already on the verge of death. The system then stated to Kaibong that the boss was incapacitated and appeared to be requesting to be killed. Kaibong asked the system if it could sense the boss monster's emotions and was surprised to learn that it could feel its rage, sorrow, fear, and resignation. He found it odd that a monster would ask for its own death. The A-rank hunters were also suspicious of the situation as they found the Moth Queen, who was supposed to be in the Moth Chamber, fatally injured and restrained in an unknown dungeon inhabited by unidentifiable monsters. They had raided many Moth Chambers before so they knew that something was not right. Yui discovered that a magic circle of restraint was used to hold the boss monster, which could only be activated by an S-rank hunter. Meanwhile, Yubin observed that the monster had been cut open and its organs removed, indicating that it had been used for its useful parts before being left to die. Yui agreed and concluded that they were in an artificial dungeon created by someone. Yubin expressed his shock at the possibility of someone conducting experiments on monsters. Meanwhile, Kaibong thought that such a situation was not entirely unexpected, as they were also conducting experiments on the remains of a fire dragon in South Korea. He realized that they needed to leave the dungeon quickly to avoid any danger. Kaibong instructed the system to absorb the energy from the dying boss monster, causing it to disintegrate and revealing the exit. As they left, Kaibong promised to explain everything. But they needed to get out of the dungeon first. Outside, they were met by Jiayun who informed them that they had been inside the dungeon for 2 months, which shocked them. Kaibong asked the system to confirm and it verified that it was true. Upon arrival, Song Ryong was relieved to see them safe and watched the recording of what happened inside the dungeon with Jiayun. Song Ryong then told Yui and Yubin to rest and that the recording will stay classified, taking Yui's camera to copy the content and delete the original file. After the two left, Kaibong showed the day stone to Song Ryong, who praised him for his work and wondered about the limits of his strength. Kaibong humbly replied and Song Ryong expressed her belief that possessing the day stone would help humanity move closer to the end of the monster phenomenon. Kaibong exited the building and saw Kong Wei and his team waiting for him in a ragged state. The system informed Kaibong that his team had all been awakened as players but detected an unknown power that didn't belong to players, similar to Kong Wei's. Kaibong was surprised and the team saluted him. Kaibong praised them for their hard work while he was away. And Kong Wei cheered from being praised by Kaibong. The vice captain explained what happened while Kaibong was away. On the day after Kaibong entered the dungeon, Kong Wei was killing monsters from the dungeon break while the army watched in awe. Ju-un was surprised by Kong Wei's strength and remembered the punch Kong Wei threw at him, realizing he could have become like the monsters that Kong Wei was destroying. Ju-un felt frustrated by his own powerlessness and wished to become stronger. He watched Kong Wei destroy monsters from the dungeon break and felt envious of his strength. Ju-un expressed his desire to become as strong as Kong Wei and not stand on the sidelines. Following Kong Wei's triumph over the monsters, Ju-un shared his intention with the team to seek Kong Wei's advice on how to enhance his own strength. Although some team members had reservations about the idea, Ju-eun remained resolute in his decision to take action and not solely rely on the captain and Kang Wei in the future. He believed that there was nothing to lose in seeking Kang Wei's guidance. Ju-eun approached Kang Wei and expressed his desire to become stronger like him and asked if it was possible for ordinary humans to gain his power. Kang Wei smiled and assured him that it was indeed possible to become stronger. Kang Wei took Ju-eun and the team to the mountains and led them to the same place where he trained. Ju-eun asked if Kang Wei trained by meditating under the waterfall or eating strange herbs and plants. To which Kang Wei replied affirmatively. Ju-eun was surprised that his guess was correct. Ju-eun prepared himself for the training and the team started with standing under the waterfall, throwing punches, hanging from trees, climbing mountains, and catching their own food. They trained every day and each member showed progress. After hearing about the intense training that Kang Wei put the team through for 2 months, Kaibong was impressed. Ju-eun then asked Kaibong to rely on them from now on, to which Kaibong responded that he has always relied on them. Hearing this, the team was emotional. While Kang Wei observed, he felt content with the progress of the team. Throughout the 2 months when Kim Kaibong was inside the moth chamber, the team took advantage of the time to enhance their combat abilities and strengthen their bond as a team. Like and subscribe if you want me to continue the next chapters, and thank you for watching.